I've never seen such an odd girl. She actually asked the girl next to her to break her arm, just to make herself disabled before tomorrow. Mew swiped a painting online. After printing it out, she carelessly flicked some paint on it with a brush and then passed it off as her own creation. And guess what? This painting won an international award, and the school even inducted Mew into the Hall of Fame. But during the school's anniversary event, the school wants Mew to paint on the spot. Mew's going crazy inside because she knows her little scheme's about to be exposed. So this nutty girl grabs a hammer and starts whacking her own arm. And this kicks off a whole series of really spooky events. You know, being a slacker in this elite school is a total nightmare. Mew and Pui get chewed out by the teachers every single day, and when they get home, their parents are on their case too. This is the cream of the crop elite school in Thailand. Every student here seems to have an IQ of 500. The school has set up a display platform especially for the top students, and it's loaded with all kinds of eye-popping awards. When Mew and Pui lay eyes on these, they're consumed with envy. Mew stares at her lousy grades and wonders when she'll ever be in the same league as those top students. Pui, standing next to her, also mutters that she's even more hopeless than Mew. Mrs. Plern, the teacher, spots these two slackers and gives them a piece of her mind. She tells them that all the other students are so brilliant and can do it all, while these two are good for nothing. They can only watch the others shine with envy, eating them up. To be a slacker, you've got to have nerves of steel. At this point, a new student named Nano shows up. She becomes a top-notch student just 2 weeks into school. Her name's up on the display platform, and she's left her handprint there too. And she gets to have lunch with Mrs. Plern. Only the top students get the special lunch. The underachievers are stuck with bread. Right after Mrs. Plern and Nano leave, Mew mimics the teacher's tone in a really sour way.
ครูเตรียมอาหารพิเศษให้กับอัจฉริยะคน
Mew and Pui feel really out of sorts when they see Nano hogging the limelight. I mean, who wouldn't want to be a top student and soak up all the praise? But in their eyes, it seems like the spotlight will never land on them as the underdogs. A few days later, Mrs. Plern excitedly announces that Pui has won first place in the Literature Association. Mew's eyes nearly pop out of her head when she hears this because she thought Pui was even worse than her. When Pui goes up to accept the award, she says in her speech, "I'm proud of myself. Everyone has their own strengths. If you push past your limits, you can be as successful as me." Mew's fuming at the bottom of the stage, and her jealousy is written all over her face. Nano smiles and asks Pui if she wants to join the top student group. Before long, Pui's name and handprint are on the display stand, and she's having the special lunch with Mrs. Plern. Watch out for the green-eyed monster among friends. Pui has made it to the top-tier students. Mew watches from afar, and a spark of envy ignites within her. She furiously rubs Pui's handprint. Nano strolls over and asks Mew, "Don't you find it fishy how Pui churned out such an amazing novel in just a week?" Mew's curiosity is piqued, of course. Pui's usually not that sharp. Nano plays coy for a moment and then spills the beans. Just Google it and copy-paste. Mew catches on right away. Pui's a copycat, but Nano spins it as drawing inspiration from others and making it her own. Then Nano hints to Mew that she could pull the same stunt in painting. Once home, Mew scours the web and lands on a painting of a cute pink flower. She erases the author's name and hits print. She figures it can't be a carbon copy, but a little tweak here and there should be a piece of cake. So she grabs a paintbrush and splatters some dye on the painting. And just like that, she claims it as her own masterpiece. When it's time to turn in the assignment, Mew's as jittery as a cat on a hot tin roof. Nano, on purpose, picks up Mew's painting and lavishes praise on it. This catches Mrs. Plern's eye in no time. She is all over Mew's painting with compliments and promptly decides to send Mew to an international competition. Nano's there, grinning from ear to ear, and even starts the round of applause to congratulate Mew. Becoming a so-called genius painter is as easy as pie. Just snag a painting online, scrub off the author's name, print it out, and daub some red paint on it. Bingo! Mew's plagiarized paintings are all the rage. The online likes are skyrocketing like there's no tomorrow. And get this, she even snagged a gold medal in an international competition. Mew's name and handprint are now plastered on the display stand. She's finally joined the ranks of top-notch students and gets to chow down on the special lunch with the teacher. Pui tries to make amends with Mew, but Mew's having none of it. She even outs Pui's plagiarism. She's got this smug look on her face, like she's some paragon of virtue. She's on cloud 9, completely wrapped up in the joy of being a top dog. The teacher's singing her praises, classmates are fawning over her, and even her parents have done a 180. She's so full of herself. One after another, the plagiarized paintings are printed, and with a quick splash of red paint, they're magically transformed into her original works. Mew's plagiarized a whopping 1,000 paintings and has morphed into a genius painter. painter. She's even bragged about being a wizard with her left-hand painting. More and more people are heaping praise on Mew's paintings, calling her the next Picasso. These compliments are like a heady cocktail that's gone straight to her head. Her vanity's gone through the roof. When she's on a TV interview, she's blabbing on and on about her artistic dreams, as if she's earned her fame fair and square. Nano watches Mew on the TV screen, and that sly smile creeps back onto her face. Lies are like soap bubbles. They're bound to burst sooner or later. The school's gearing up for an anniversary bash and has invited a bunch of bigwigs. The event will showcase the works of outstanding students, and Mew's stellar paintings have caught Mrs. Plern's fancy. Nano chimes in, Mew's such a star. It'd be a real showstopper if she painted live. Mrs. Plern bites and gives the nod, but Mew knows darn well she can't paint a lick. So she makes up an excuse that no one's interested in watching her paint. Nano then throws in the idea of a live broadcast. Mrs. Plern's even more stoked, thinking it'll be a feather in the school's cap. Mew's backed into a corner and has no choice but to agree. Mew's act of plagiarizing other people's paintings is on the verge of being found out by the teacher. After school, she blocks Nano's way and asks furiously, "Why are you messing with me like this?" "Nano, cool as a cucumber. What did I do? It's you who's desperate to be a star student. I'm just lending a hand." Mew is instantly left tongue-tied. Nano's lips curl up into a sinister smile.
โชคดีนะจ๊ะ
In a fit of rage, Mew hurls her school bag to the ground. Desperate to keep her plagiarism under wraps, Mew grabs a paintbrush and starts scribbling away, but she's clueless about painting. The result is an absolute disaster. Fuming with anger, she crumples the painting into a ball. Just then, Nano calls on video. She's got this over-the-top, bone-chilling smile on her face. She asks Mew pointedly, working on a new masterpiece, "Are you?" Then, feigning innocence, she drops the bombshell. Someone online has caught you red-handed for plagiarizing. Mew is boiling with rage. She figures that since she can't paint, she'd better come up with another plan. There's no way she's going to make a fool of herself on stage. To hold on to the honor she stole through plagiarism, Mew goes so far as to set up her good friend. She rings Pui and arranges to meet in the school bathroom. Pui, thinking Mew has forgiven her, skips along to the meeting. Mew looks Pui in the eye and admits that she'd been ignoring Pui because she was green with envy over Pui's newfound status as a top student. Then Mew pulls out a hammer and says to Pui, "Break my arm." Pui is gobsmacked. "You're joking, right?" Mew is dead serious. She blurts out in a panic, "I can't paint at all. I can't go on stage. All my paintings are fakes." Pui still thinks Mew's pulling her leg, but Mew is so insistent, begging her to break her arm. It's a disaster waiting to happen. This girl is just ruthless. She's in tears, begging the girl next to her to break her own arm. "I'm pleading with you. I've been there for you loads of times. Please, do me this favor. Just do it." There's no way Pui's going to agree to such a crazy request. When Pui refuses, Mew grabs the hammer and starts pounding her own arm, one blow after another. She's screaming in agony, but she won't stop. Pui is horrified, her hair standing on end. She dashes over, snatches the hammer, and stops Mew. At this point, Mew seems to have morphed into a different person. She shrieks at Pui, "Why did you hit me?" Her sudden transformation is so shocking that it scares Pui senseless. Mew also starts yelling for help. Mrs. Plern hears the commotion and comes running. Mew keeps badgering Pui, demanding to know why she hit her. Pui, holding the hammer, is in a real bind and can't defend herself. At that moment, Nano's maniacal laughter echoes, sending shivers down everyone's spine. Mew, terrified of her plagiarism being uncovered, goes so far as to frame her best friend. Pui nearly gets expelled from school because of it. Mew's little scheme pays off, and she's feeling pretty self-satisfied. Mrs. Plern comes to see Mew and remarks with a touch of regret that it's a shame Mew won't be able to bring honor to the school. At this point, Nano suddenly brings up that Mew had previously claimed she could paint with her left hand. She even pulls out Mew's phone and finds the message to show Mrs. Plern. Mrs. Plern is elated when he sees it. Mew is so enraged that her eyes turn red as she glares at Nano, but Nano just pretends not to notice. Well, now Mew has no excuse to skip the performance. She can't exactly go and maim her other arm, can she? Nano even chimes in with,
มิวจะได้โชว์ความสามารถละ
Finally, it's the school's anniversary day. When it's Mew's turn to perform, she's so scared that tears are welling up in her eyes. She's seated in front of the canvas, but doesn't dare to pick up the paintbrush. Nano looks at Mew and gives a knowing smile. "You got this, Mew," she shouts. The other students join in, shouting the same thing. They all whip out their phones, ready to record Mew as she paints. Mew has no choice but to muster up her courage and start painting. Never, ever plagiarize other people's work. While Mew is in the middle of painting, all of a sudden, a girl bolts onto the stage. She's clutching evidence of Mew's plagiarism, the original painting she found online. Everyone thinks Mew's in hot water. But just then, the principal steps in. To safeguard the school's reputation, he picks up the painting, examines it, and declares this doesn't bear the slightest resemblance. It's completely different. Then he tears the painting to shreds. The principal has sharp eyes and immediately notices that the girl's school badge is from the second-ranked school. The principal tells everyone, clearly, this is someone from the rival school trying to cause chaos. Accusing Mew of plagiarism is just baseless nonsense. The girl isn't having it. She's determined to prove her innocence. So the principal demands that Mew paint another one right there on the spot to prove the school's innocence. Nano smiles wickedly and shouts, "Go ahead and paint!" The other students follow suit. Mew has no alternative but to pick up the paintbrush. With all those eyes on her, Mew's painting is an absolute disaster, looking like a toddler's scribbles. But the principal, desperate to save face, insists that Mew's new painting is just like the old ones and proclaims that Mew is a true top student. I've never witnessed a more conceited principal. He actually passes off a childlike painting as a masterpiece. The girl who came to expose Mew is seething with rage. Are you blind? These two paintings are as different as night and day, but the principal won't listen. They're identical. I'm the principal of this prestigious school. I won't let the second-ranked school outdo us. The principal defends Mew while simultaneously running down the girl's school. Then he orders the security guards to boot the girl out. Mrs. Plern comes over to console Mew. "You're an outstanding student. No one can take your honor away." After that, Mrs. Plern asks Mew to give a speech to everyone. Mew's unprepared. When she gets on stage, she sees a speech draft that Nano wrote. Mew just reads it aloud. "Under the leadership of us top students, society will progress better. Even in the darkest of times, a genuine diamond will always shine through." The students in the audience burst into applause. Nano is also smiling there. This is the third episode of the Thai drama Girl from Nowhere. Nano truly lives up to her reputation as the daughter of Satan. She has an uncanny understanding of human nature, especially the greedy and jealous aspects. For those of you who adore Nano, write Nano is the best in the comments. We'll continue next time. Remember to like and subscribe. See you later. Bye.